Hello everyone and welcome back to this long-awaited Monstera deliciosa pruning. I've been threatening on social media to cut this back. It has taken over. I got this as a cutting, literally a stump, 20 years ago when the garden club was here and somebody offered me a piece. I didn't really want it, but you know what, this is a big garden and can't say no for a freebie. And I literally put it around in this area here, maybe behind this big pillar that goes up. As far as I remember, I put it down there, covered it in compost, leaf mold and whatever. 21 years later, this is what it looks like. We in the southern hemisphere, we were in a subtropical area. Although the temperatures go down in winter for a couple of nights to maybe 5 degrees, we don't get frost. It's never been affected by severe cold. We might get one night where it still doesn't go to freezing point, but it's still cold. And this thing has just been growing non-stop. Initially, it was just crawling on the ground until it found a pillar, and then up it went. And this is the problem with when you have a garden, that you see it every day and you don't objectively look at it and think, maybe this is getting too big, maybe I should prune it back. Yeah, the leaf grows into the walkway and you push it back, and at some point it's an ugly leaf and you cut it back. But you never objectively stand back and think to yourself, I think this thing is growing too big. I think we need to prune it. And this is what happened now, is after all these years, I've really looked at it, and this is the walkway here. You can see you really dodged the plant. And because I've got guests here, I can't tell them, look, dodge the plant. If they dodge the plant and fall into the koi pond, that's a video for another day. But anyway, so I finally got to the point where I decided I'm going to have to cut back a lot of it. I offered it on social media to anybody that wants to come and pick up a piece. I did manage to give away 4 or 5 pieces to one of the guests, and I'm hoping that it grows where they are. They're growing, they live further up north from us. They don't get frost, so it should do well. You'll see at the end of, or sort of towards the middle of the video, where they loaded onto their truck and it went off to the Limpopo province. But you can see here's the back as well. It started climbing up the tree, and then where the others couldn't find a tree or a pillar, it just grew in another direction, looking for something to grow onto. So it's both a crawler and a creeper. It will creep to a point where it finds something to grow up on. Now, this is my little helper. And I've always say this at the beginning, or at the end of every video, and I think I should say this now at the beginning. He only works, I think, 3 days a week. He's a gardener. He goes from house to house. I would love to employ him for 2 or 3 days during the week, the days that he is not employed. But for that, I have to monetize this channel, and that the YouTube can pay his salary. I would love for that to happen. The way that you can help me, which is costing you absolutely nothing, is just to subscribe to the channel. The moment you subscribe, you don't need to click the notification bell, but the moment you subscribe to the channel, the algorithm bumps the content up and distributes it to more people that might be interested in this kind of content. And all you need to do is just click subscribe. The other thing which would also help tremendously is if you leave a comment, you leave an emoji in the comments. YouTube is very good in paying creators for content, and I would love to be able to say, we are doing something good for this person. Anyway, so I've sped it up because it was in the end work over a few days where we had to go and clean up. You'll see a lot of it I'm putting through my shredder. We've cut most of the leaves off. Unfortunately, the stem is just too fibrous and too thick. My shredder isn't strong enough. I suppose if I cut it up in small pieces and stand there for hours and hours and hours, I can put it through the shredder. It makes a lovely compost, but you'll see later on, I've kept the stems apart. I've just cut the leaves off, and so now we make compost of all the leaves. This is just the process of taking it or making some cuttings for the guests that I told you about. You can see we already took one apart. We're trying to cut it, and it's quite difficult now to make the cut because you have to be careful that you don't cut the stem off at the bottom with nothing coming from the ground up into the top of the plant. So you have to follow each one and see exactly where it comes from, and then try and figure out where is the best place to cut. I've cut a lot of the leaves off because also the easy way, you'll see there's a lot of aerial roots on the stems itself. The easiest way to now go and plant this, and I almost want to say don't plant it, you put it on the ground. Make sure that there is some leaf mold, compost, branches, twigs, whatever. And then you just cover most of the stem in a good amount of compost and leaf mold, and then just keep it damp to moist. The aerial roots will eventually start growing into the ground. Remember that the Monstera is a creeper or a crawler, so it doesn't grow into the ground, it grows on top of the ground. I've propagated quite a few pieces where I've just put it on the ground. If you look at the amount of aerial roots at the bottom there of this plant, and the reason why I cut most of the leaves off is I don't want to stress the plant, because this is now going up north to one of my guests. If you remove most of the leaves, the plant can concentrate on growing roots and establishing itself. It's not concentrating on trying to maintain the leaves. You can even cut most of the leaves off, but leave maybe one or two, because the plants still need to photosynthesize and in that way regenerate itself and grow new roots. Amazing, a lot of roots that you can see there that we also have to take away. Just look at that. I'll show you something later interesting. And fruit, those are this year's fruit. I'll show you something interesting about the aerial root. Don't be scared to cut your aerial root when it grows too long. When you cut it, the aerial root will sprout again. So if it's too long, and I've seen people struggling to plant it and twisting it, cut it off, wait for it to callus over, and then leave it. It will sprout on the same root and make new growth. So honestly, don't be worried about that. These are all the plants that's growing up in the pillar, and look at that amazing amount of aerial roots. Some of them have grown into the ground, so they're actually feeding itself. I do a lot of organic gardening, so it grows into a lot of literally just leaf mold. It must be about 30 or 40 centimeters thick before you actually hit the soil. So, and all that leaf mold retains a lot of moisture, and that's why the plant is so happy there. This is at the client's car. These are all the ones that's going to his house, and as you can see, most of the leaves have cut off. There's just a few at the top. And I said to him, depending on how it traveled and what it looked like there, you can even cut those off because there's enough aerial roots. I'm sure that if he just keeps it moist, cover it with compost, it will grow. Okay, back to the big problem. So we did one piece there where we cut around the very first pillar at the corner. But look at all of this. It is still in the way. Is it pretty? Yes. Is it intrusive? Yes. And this is where you have to stand back and think to yourself, does it still look like a garden, or does it just look neglected? Yeah, it's beautiful. But you also have to keep in mind that you want some structure. The plant didn't keep to any structure. The plant just grew wherever it could find a way. There you can see the corner that we've cut away. It looks a lot better. There is still some at the back of it. And that's the other problem there. As you can see on the walkway, you can hardly get past that plant there. So it's not optional. We have to get rid of it. Finally, we got to the point where I started cutting back. I'm in two minds. Should I cut away more pieces on top, or should I leave it? And it's always a good idea. When you start pruning, you have to be very careful not to go in too hard. Stand back and think to yourself, is it too much? Is it too little? Can I do more? What is it going to look like if I take a little bit more away? Rather leave a piece if you are not sure. Leave it for a day, leave it for a week and see what it looks like. Because the moment that you are not sure, it means maybe it should stay. You can always come back a week later and prune more. But once you've cut it away, it's gone. And it's going to take years for that to regrow. And once there's an empty spot, trust me, there's an empty spot. Just look at these fantastic aerial roots that's going down there. So we also still have to keep in mind that I have to clean up every time I'm done, so that the guests won't fall over all the leaves and that it still looks presentable all the time. I'm sorry,
Okay, the carnage has begun.
Orientation of the camera wrong here.
There's still a
So
lot to do.
just bear with me. Unfortunately,
I'm not touching this for now.
The bit in front.
This I'll do later.
Going around the corner that we've cut.
That one definitely has to come down.
Still, that's the top ones there that I'm not sure about.
Opened up.
And there
now
you can see
we've
just gone in and I've just cut
my little
everything away.
Overtime.
The walkway has to be open.
Look at this
and also the other thing that I do want is I have very good variegated Monstera deliciosa, the elbow. There's a little robin, I think, that followed me around the whole day. It was obviously looking for the insects and stuff that we have disturbed.
That's him.
There he goes. He sits on the sprayer.
He's looking for food. It's been
so
the whole time.
There are other nicer plants that I can plant there that will create more of an interest and more of a balance. Otherwise, too much of the same thing is not a good idea. Unless you have a fantastically park, yes you can, but no. Otherwise, it's going to give the impression that there is no structure in the garden and everything is neglected. Here's my dependable old shredder, and everything is going through the shredder. Interesting with the leaves, or especially the stems, is because once it dries out, it becomes extremely fibrous. Once it's still green, it's easy for the shredder to just cut it up. But the moment it dries out, then it clogs up the shredder and you have to open it and clean it, which is a bit of a schlep. Also the flower or the fruit that I cut off, I've put that through the shredder as well. It is extremely wet inside of the fruit. It makes so much mush that it blocks the shredder. At some point I thought that the yeah, I see, and there it's the old leaves that blocked it. That the leaves have blocked it, but it's not. It was actually the fruit that became so mushy that nothing could fall through, and then it backed up and it clogged up the shredder. So I'm sure you don't want to see me for the next 2 hours putting stuff in there, cutting it off. Beautiful compost. I must say I've already used most of it in the garden. And there you can see I just leave the stems, everything else goes through it, so that we actually don't throw anything away. There's a fresh fruit. This was last year's. Everybody says it tastes a bit like a banana, a cross between a banana and a pineapple. Remember, there is some kind of crystal in the fruit. It does irritate the lining of the mouth, but it lasts like for half an hour, and you can and you won't feel the effects of it. But it's worth trying to taste it and eat it. It's worth having that experience. There you can see this whole shredder has now blocked up. Interesting, let me quickly show you, and this is not promotional for this machine, is you have to open it up there to clean it out. And all the fruit that I've put in there has blocked it, so we have to make sure that everything is open. And the safety mechanism of this machine is, unless those two black nuts are turned in totally all the way to the bottom, you will not be able to switch it on. So you have to close it, you have to turn it, and then you can switch it on. Otherwise, the safety mechanism will just not be active, and the machine won't work. If you have a garden or if you live in a community, I would suggest, especially in bigger communities, because not everybody has got large gardens, is if the community buy sort of a shredder this size, and it can go from house to house. If you need it, you can book it and use it. It is really worth the effort in keeping organic matter in your garden. I've seen so many people just throw stuff away, especially now before winter, in autumn when the leaves started falling off, bags and bags and bags. And literally, when you throw a bag full of leaves through this machine, maybe 2 or 3 handfuls of compost come out on the other side. So you reduce the volume so much if you put it through the shredder. If you just have normal leaves on the lawn, take the lawnmower and go over it with the lawnmower. Do not put the container at the back of the lawnmower. Let it just blow out over the lawn, and it will eventually disintegrate. The moment you cut back the leaves, the damage on it, it will really start decomposing really quickly. These are just all the stems that's left. As you can see, there's a whole lot of there. We've cleaned all of that stuff that was lying there. I've taken this one out, this one piece that was growing wildly in some unknown direction. And there is one of the heaps of mulch that we've just made. If you leave this mulch if you leave this compost or shredded plant material for 24 hours and you open it up, you will immediately feel it is already starting to create heat in the middle of it. That's how quickly the decomposing process starts. You put your hand in there 24 hours later and you can feel that it's already generating heat. I don't really make compost because if you want to do it correctly, it's a complicated process. I just use it straightforward as a mulch, and it will decompose slowly on the beds itself. This is the last area here that I got into and started cutting out. I think that's a corduroy there. And I still haven't put that through the mulcher. Maybe by the time that this video goes live, I would have put it. But I've just cut all the leaves off just to get a general idea of what it looks like once we've done. It worries me that this pillar is a little bit exposed, but if you look at all the stems that's there, I'm sure it's going to start sprouting, and I can use one to crawl up the pillar again and just cover that. Of course, I can also plant any of the other creepers that I have and let that crawl up the pillar and let it give more a different texture, different color, different variety, instead of just the monotonous deliciosas growing up there. There's just more of the stems that I've cut off. You can see I've already cut off all the leaves. You can put the leaves just on the ground and let it disintegrate by its own. That's just going to take a lot longer for it to happen, because the leaf is first going to dry out, and then it will slowly start decomposing. If you put it through the shredder, the process just becomes so much quicker, because the leaf is already damaged. The pathogens and organisms and whatever can get in there, and it can immediately start breaking it down. And as I said earlier, if you leave it in a heap, the heat that generates in the composting process itself also breaks it down quite fast. The only problem why I don't like, or the reason why I don't like the compost process as such, you have to control the heat that is in the composting process. If it becomes too hot, it can actually, if you've got enough dry material in there, it can catch fire. See, there's also, look at the dry constellation that's there. It at least is now going to get some light, so that's also a reason why I wanted to open this up. So the composting process is a little bit, I don't want to say it's difficult, but you have to keep an eye on it. It can catch fire if you have enough dry material in it, and then if it's too dry, it stops decomposing, then you have to water it again, so it can start decomposing again. I just find it a lot easier. Take the material now out of the shredder and just mulch with it. The plants love it, and it is as good as compost. Maybe it'll take a little bit longer for the nutrients to get into the soil, but it's all good. It's just an easier way of gardening, instead of you now have another responsibility with all the stuff that you now have to have in a compost heap. You have to keep the compost heap, you have to keep on turning it, and no, make it easy for yourself and just use it directly out of the shredder as a mulch. Looking a lot more open, there's a lot more light coming in, there's actually some sun coming in. We've just had the longest night and the shortest day here in South Africa. So this is now the beginning of July, is still going to be a cold. August, in a month's time, you're going to have these exceptional hot days and then cold days to follow that. And then from September onwards, the weather starts turning quite nice and warm. There you can still see I haven't done anything under the tree there yet. So that was going to be the next project that I tackle. Here are, and you can see how many of these stumps that I actually cut out. Look at all those aerial roots. I've cut most of them out, most of them off. So if you put that on the ground, you cover it with compost or mulch or leaf mold or whatever, trust me, if you keep it damp, it will grow, it will sprout, and you've got a plant. So it's, for me, probably one of the easiest plants to propagate. I did it a couple of months ago where I put it next to the wall. I also had to cut out some pieces somewhere, and I literally covered it in a whole lot of branches that was busy decomposing. It was quite wet, quite fibrous, and I threw it on there, and the plants the roots have found the moisture, and it's growing, and it's already pushing out new leaves. This is what I want to show you. Look at this aerial root that I cut off, I don't know, a couple of months ago, and it sprouted 2 places where there are now new aerial roots. So if you have these really long aerial roots from your delicious Monster or Monstera, just cut it off. Don't be scared. It will shoot new roots. And look how beautiful those roots are. It's kind of zebra, leopard type looking. Very, very pretty. And the new roots is obviously very soft and pliable, so you can use it anywhere you want. Almost getting there. The one that's growing in the tree, I'm going to leave that, see how far it will grow. I'm sure it will be extremely happy there. These leaves, I kid you not, is probably almost a meter long. Okay, and now the final stretch. All that plants that was under the tree, you can actually see past the tree now. I've cut all of those off. You can see the bottom part of the garden. Yes, I haven't put any of that through the mulcher yet, but look how beautiful the sun comes in, and immediately the garden feels a little bit warmer, because that was north facing that I've just showed you now. So the sun is in the north at the moment. Let me just show you, this is what it looked like before. And that's what it looks like now. So tell me that, yes, I needed to prune that back. This is before, and that's now. Yes, it just looks better. Okay, all the aerial roots and stuff at the bottom, we will at some point clean up, cut away, obviously tidy up a little bit more, make it look better. But for now, the big work has been done. You can see most of the leaves that you saw under the tree, these poor anthuriums that was growing there, there's also a boloanum. They were really struggling. They couldn't get enough sun. There was just too many of the monsteras. I cut most of that away, and all of a sudden it looks just more organized. It's not such a uncontrolled jungle anymore. So it was a good idea to stand back and objectively look at it. So what's the plan now, you may ask? Well, I've already got a plan, and I'm going to show it to you right now. This elbow I planted next to the tree here, I would say at least a year ago, 18 months ago. And I want to show you something interesting here. Look how few aerial roots it has in comparison to your normal deliciosa. But the interesting part's coming up. There's a few aerial roots here. Look at the how short the internodal spacing has become. You know, elbows are known for these long internodal spaces. There's a fruit, must be last year's. There's a new growth point here, and there's also a new growth point there. And do you notice how thick the mulch is where it grows? This is another place in the garden where I've planted another one, and this is what I want to show you. Look at the amount of aerial roots. Okay, it's growing up a concrete pillar. Maybe it's looking for more water, maybe it's wanting to stabilize itself more, but it's all cuttings from the same plant. And here's the plan. There's 2 pots. I've got at least 3 cuttings in here. The one is quite long, so I can actually propagate it and plant the propagation directly into the soil, where I've now cut all these others away. This one has given me a white leaf. I'm just going to leave it, you know, it will sort itself out. So that's the plan, that I'm going to take this and plant it here amongst the other delicious monster, the green one, and let that create interest, and people will notice the difference. Before I go, let me quickly show you. This is a Thai constellation. It's the same age, or the same time ago I planted as the other one, about 18 months ago. Very short internodal spacing. This leaf is massive. I'll measure it. I don't think it's hardened off quite yet, but I think it's about 1 meter long. Anyway, if you have watched up until now, please subscribe, please like, please leave a comment. Subscribing costs you nothing, but it's really going to change our world. And again, look at the amount of mulch that's there. I cannot stress this enough. Don't throw anything away. Use it as a mulch. Thank you, everybody, and I will see you in the next one. Bye-bye.